Let's start with a gut punch question. If I turned off every single one of your ads and lead generators right now, your pay-per-click, LSAs, Facebook, door knockers, shared mailers, here's the question. How many leads would you get next month? If the answer is none, then you don't have a marketing plan. You've got something more like a credit card and a dependency problem. You're spending all or most of your marketing efforts in what I call hunting activities at the expense of stopping down and creating a farm. And yeah, I get it. You've got bills to pay, installers to feed, crews to keep busy. You can't just sit back and wait for the harvest. But if all you ever do is hunt, then every morning you wake up hungry all over again. Because hunters live off of what they kill. And when the animals stop showing up, or you've already caught the majority of them, when your cost per lead doubles, or when the aggregator changes their algorithm, or Google decides your ad quality score isn't good enough, you're suddenly starving and scrambling. That's why every year, usually in the off season, January or so, my phone lights up with panic contractors. Hey man, Rich, leads are dried up. It's just seasonal, right? No, it's not the weather. It's that you didn't plant anything last year. So let's define what I'm talking about here. Hunting is short-term marketing. You spend $1 today, you get a lead tomorrow. Pay-per-click, LSA, lead aggregators, canvassing, events, Facebook ads. That's hunting. It's fast, it's measurable, it's adrenaline. But when you stop spending, the phone stops ringing. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that these things are bad or wrong. I'm just saying that they leave you vulnerable long-term. Farming, on the other hand, is long-term marketing. It's the stuff that takes some time, but also compounds over time. Okay? It's SEO, content, video, branding, reviews, reputation management, TV, radio, OTT, organic, social. Farming is what keeps producing after you've paid for it. Hunting is a necessary marketing tactic. Farming is a long-term growth and wealth building strategy. Hunting feeds your crews this week, farming feeds your company for years. And the balance between the two, that's where most contractors screw it up. They're either all in on hunting because it's trackable, or they've got some half-hearted SEO plan that's been in progress for 3 years and still ranks for nothing but the company name. If your marketing dies the moment you stop writing checks, you're not investing, you're just feeding a slot machine. And again, I'm not saying that hunting is bad. I'm just trying to open your eyes to a bigger picture. Now, here's the thing. Every contractor starts out as a hunter. You have to. When you started your business, you were broke. You had a rusty truck, hopefully not rusty, but maybe a handful of tools, maybe a few bucks to buy some yard signs. You didn't need brand awareness. You needed customers. You needed them right then. You needed them today. So you did what you should. You hunted. You knocked doors, you bought leads, you chased every job that smelled like money. I remember one of my clients, a guy named Chan Cornett from Cornett Roofing. In his early days, he'd drive around with an old analog tape recorder, you know those things, and he would notice roofs that needed to be replaced. And then he'd go back to the office and compile those. He would have somebody listen to him, or I think it was him that was listening to it, and he would just put them into an Excel list. And then he'd send one of his sales guys out to knock half the doors, and then he'd go back and knock the other half himself. Also, I remember Dan Walt. He's the founder of Zen Windows. Slightly different version of that same story. Him and his partner, they would go out and knock doors all day. They'd set appointments, and they would usually set them if they could for that night. Their door pitch is that they would have the owner show up that night to discuss windows. And then at 4 o'clock, they'd both go home and shower. They'd put on a suit, and then they'd meet at the office where they'd swap leads with each other. And then they'd go out as the owner to sell the other guy's leads. Okay, so it wasn't the same guy showing up twice. You've probably got your own version of this kind of thing, whatever it was that you did in the early days to make the phone ring and generate leads. It's not wrong. It's survival. The problem is many contractors never really get around to taking it to the next level. Once the business starts to make a little money, you tell yourself, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start doing some of that long-term stuff, the farming stuff. I'll do it soon, right after I get a few more leads coming in. But what happens? Soon never comes. You get hooked on the dopamine hit of the fast leads. You get addicted to the idea that the marketing should always give you an instant return. And then suddenly you're 5 years in, you're doing 5 million in sales, you're spending 30, 40 grand a month on ads, and you're still waking up every morning thinking, man, I hope the phone rings today. You're making more money, yes, but it's still a form of living paycheck to paycheck, just with bigger numbers. That's not smart marketing. That's hamster wheel spending. So let's make this simple, all right? It's time to think of marketing like investing, not just spending. To drive this point home, let's talk about personal finance for a minute. Most people who never get ahead financially, they're not dumb or lazy. They're just sort of trapped in short-term thinking. Every dollar they earn is already earmarked for something specific, whether it be rent or car payments, groceries, childcare, gas, taxes, cell phone bill, all the regular stuff. And if there's anything left over, then spending goes to things that seem necessary just to make life tolerable. The occasional vacation, maybe some nice clothes, a pair of shoes, Uber Eats, whatever it is. And then they tell themselves, as soon as I get ahead just a little bit, then I'm going to start investing. But then what happens? That day never comes because there's always something urgent eating up the money first. It's a car repair. Who knows what it is? So you might say to this person, look, just take a little bit of money up front before you spend it on anything else and put it in an investment account. And the guy says, well, I can't afford that. Well, how about $200 a month? Can you peel off $200 a month? That's $100 per paycheck. No, I can't do that. I've got student debt. I've got credit card debt. Okay, what about $100 a month? Okay, how about $50 per paycheck, $100 a month? And this is where the rubber hits the road. Okay, there's this weird dichotomy that pops up. It goes something like this. $100 a month doesn't seem like enough to matter for your long-term retirement savings. You're investing. And also, simultaneously, it seems like way too much to set aside because of current financial demands. They're so intense, you need that money. So that $100, it's not a lot of money, and also it's a lot of money at the exact same time. But I'm assuming that if you're watching this video, you're probably smart enough to understand the power of compound interest. That measly $100 a month invested into a low-cost index fund or ETF, it turns into a fortune after a while. Everybody knows this, right? I'm not breaking news here. $100 a month, if you started at the age of 25 and you got an 8% annual return, that turns into about, I think, carry the two, $420,000 by the time you're 65. It grows by about 9 times what you actually put in due to compounding. Or you could have a few more DoorDash deliveries. The truth is, that's also how most contractors run their marketing budgets. Every dollar they spend has to generate a lead this week so that they can keep their sales teams busy right now. They can't make payroll, so they never invest marketing dollars in anything long term. Meanwhile, the smart companies are peeling off a little bit at a time, just a slice, and they invested in farming. It feels like a ton of money because it's robbing your hunting budget, but at the same time, it's not that much money. Remember the dichotomy? What can you really do with just 5%, let's say, of your marketing budget? And the answer is, you can do a lot. That's what farming is. It's marketing compounding, okay? So let's talk about the time horizon. When you spend money on pay-per-click, as an example, hunting, you can see the results in hours. It's like flipping a house. You buy it, you sell it, and then you cash out fast. When you invest in farming, let's say SEO, content, reviews, branding, it's a little bit more like putting money into that long-term portfolio. You don't get rich the next month, but 6 months from now, a year, 2 years, it starts to compound, right? Every SEO page that you add to your website, it's kind of like buying a share of stock in your company's future. Every video that explains your identity is like earning a dividend on brand trust. Every review that you collect, and you need to be collecting them, it's like buying another acre of fertile land that's going to feed you later. But here's the catch. If you stop planting, the compounding stops. It doesn't happen. I remember growing up, my brother and I loved to visit my grandparents' farm in Kansas, okay? There's unlimited ways to have fun and get in trouble on a farm out in the middle of nowhere. But on that farm, when I was a kid, near the house, they had an old-fashioned pump it was a water well with this pump, okay? It had a big old long red handle. So of course, being Gen X kids, we go out there and fool around with all kinds of things, but we go over to that pump and you start pumping and it's really hard. You have to really lean on that handle. I probably only weighed like 80 pounds or something, but you have to lean on that and you have to get it to go down. It would take what felt like 5 or 10 minutes of pumping to get the water to finally come out of the spout. There was some effort involved, okay? That's what I'm trying to say. But then what? Once the water came out, the dynamics changed and the water was so easy to pump. You could keep it just like a finger, like 1/10 of the effort maximum, okay? But then what? A moment, then the water would go all the way back down to the well and you'd have to start all over again, okay? Similarly, it takes some hard work and effort and time to get your leads flowing when you engage in farming marketing. But once they start coming in, you can pump that handle with one easy finger. The big boys get big by farming and they never stop. You think the company's doing 20 or 30 million a year or just running ads? No, they've been farming for years. They've got brand equity so deep that when someone Googles roofing company near me, they don't even click the ads. They click the brand that they already know. Now, here's a question for you. What percentage of your marketing budget is hunting versus farming right now? Drop a comment below. Are you 90-10 or 80-20 or 50-50? Maybe you're 100% hunting and ready to make a change. Let me know where you're at. I was speaking at a conference one time. I was talking about this exact topic and Brian Elias was there. He was in the back of the room. I think he was speaking after me or something. I'm not sure why he was there, but this is when he was still at Hanson's. I think it was right before he sold. And I asked him from the stage because I worked with them. I knew him. And I said, Brian, how long have you been on the TV there in Michigan? And he said, since the beginning. And at the time, it was about 30 years. 30 years of farming. No wonder they're doing $80 million in sales or whatever it was they were doing. That is wealth. That's equity. That's compounding. That's marketing the smart way. Now, here's the thing about farming. It is slower, but it's stronger. Let's say you spend 60 grand on SEO in 1 year, okay? 5,000 a month, 60 grand in a year. That's going to buy you about 100 pages. Remember I said it was like buying stock, 100 shares of stock in your company. It's real content, service area pages, identity-based blog posts, and real content that is engaging and interesting and is properly optimized. For the first 6 months of doing this, you're going to hear crickets. You're paying the bill, the content's being created and posted, but apparently nothing's happening. Then, slowly, those pages start getting indexed by Google. Google. They start ranking. Then you start to get a trickle of leads. Then you get a few more. By year 2, the same SEO that you paid for last year is still generating leads now this year, except for now you've also hopefully added more pages, more reviews, more video, and it starts compounding. The ROI gets better every single year because you're not rebuying those assets. You're planting, you're farming. Meanwhile, your pay-per-click, no matter how good it is, it starts over fresh every single morning. You pay, you get clicks. You stop paying, the leads stop. Okay, that's the difference between owning a rental property and paying nightly for a hotel room. And here's the kicker. Your farm makes your hunting more efficient. When people see your ads and recognize your brand, your cost per click goes down. Your conversion ratio goes up. Your brand trust makes your short-term marketing cheaper and more effective. The two feed on each other, but only if you're farming. Okay, so how do you balance it? If you're doing under $2 million in revenue, you're probably living deal to deal. You don't have the luxury of dropping 50 grand on SEO right now. I get that. So start small, okay? But you have to start. Let's say you're spending $10,000 a month on marketing. Can you do this? Can you peel off $1,000 for farming? $500 for crying out loud? That's your investment fund. Maybe you spend it on, I don't know, SEO content or reputation management or long-term video assets, something that compounds. Maybe you save it up for a year so you actually can afford to do something with it. So now you got what? 1,000 times 12? You got $12,000. Think of it as equity. So at first, maybe you're like 90-10 hunting, okay? So 90% is hunting and only 10% is farming. Then after a while, maybe when you get to 3 to 5 million in sales, maybe it shifts to 80-20, then 70-30, then 60-40. Who knows? Maybe you can get it to 50-50. Again, not because hunting sucks or is stupid. It's not. It's because you can now afford to invest more and get more out of your budget. That's what stability looks like. The big companies aren't immune to seasonality because they're lucky. They're immune because their farms feed them through the winter. They've got SEO driving inbound calls. They've got brand recognition doing the heavy lifting. They've got repeat and referral business from years of reputation farming. They don't panic when the storms dry up. They harvest. Now let's be honest. Farming feels hard at first because it's invisible at first. It's slow. It's boring. It doesn't scratch the urgent itch that hunting does. When you spend 10 grand on pay-per-click, you can see the form fills in your CRM. I've got a client that's doing $20 million in sales plus, and she says, man, I love seeing the emails come in with the form fills and with the leads. Even at that level, she's getting 500 leads a month, and she still loves seeing those emails coming in. It feels good. When you spend 10 grand on SEO or brand development and nothing happens for months, feels like you're lighting money on fire. But 6 months later, when your organic leads start climbing and your cost per lead starts dropping, you realize that you weren't spending, you were investing. That's when you start to feel the power of compounding. But guess what? If you never start, you're never going to get there. Okay, so let's talk about numbers for a second. Let's say you spend $100,000 a year on pay-per-click. Okay, you're going to get leads for exactly 1 year. If you spend $100,000 on SEO during that same year, the payoff might be small at first. It'll continue to produce for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Those pages that you build, or what I like to call putting troops into the battle, they stay forever. They keep fighting and they keep delivering new leads. Even if you paid for them last year or 5 or 10 years ago, you'll still be getting leads long after that money's spent. Okay, it's like the difference between renting and owning. Rent payments are just gone. Mortgage payments, they build up equity over time. SEO, reviews, and branding, they're like your marketing mortgage payment. Okay, the key though is consistency. Don't stop planting, even if it's small. 1 video a month, 2 new SEO pages a month, a steady stream of reviews. Keep it going. Then you can invest in TV or radio or OTT or things that will fertilize and grow you tons of new fruit. Because if you stop, okay, it's like letting the weeds take over. Google notices, customers forget you, competitors pass you. But if you keep watering that field over time, it becomes unstoppable. Suddenly you've got branded search volume climbing every month. You've got people typing in your name instead of roofing company near me. You've got a review velocity that outpaces everyone else in your market, all your competitors. And that's when you realize your brand has become the category. That's the goal. When someone in your market thinks roofing or bathroom remodel or windows or whatever it is you do, your name pops into their head before Google's even loaded. That's top of mind awareness. It's called TOMA, T-O-M-A, top of mind awareness. And it only happens when you think like an investor, not a spender. All right, so here's the bottom line as we wrap up. Hunting is great. You've got to hunt to survive, but you can't just live off the kill forever. At some point, you have to start farming, or you're going to always be living month to month praying that the next season brings enough rain. Start small, stay consistent, rebalance as you grow, shift the budget, because marketing is just like investing. You can't time the market. You can only feed it consistently and let compounding do its thing. If you want stability, freedom, and equity, start start planting now. Don't wait for the perfect time. The perfect time was last year. The second best time, it's today. So go look at your marketing budget this week and ask yourself one question. What percentage of this is buying leads for today, and what percentage is building for tomorrow? If the answer is 100% hunting, you're living on adrenaline. If it's 80-20, you're getting smarter. You're moving in the right direction. If it's all the way to 60-40, now we're talking about wealth, because hunting feeds you today, farming feeds you tomorrow, and investing turns tomorrow into something permanent. So start planning now. And next winter, while everybody else is starving, you're going to be too busy harvesting. If you found this video valuable, make sure you hit the bell icon so that you get notified every time we drop a new video. We're putting up content like this regularly to help you build a better business. And hey, if you want to hear from me every single day, check out the Level 10 Contractor Daily Podcast. You can find it on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast apps. My name is Rich Harshaw. Let's go build a farm.